This is a video with sound. Hopefully everybody can hear this sound. If you don't hear my voice, hopefully you can read this and try to get the sound working on your computer. This is notes from the Geometry Chapter 2 study guide. And this lesson is on Chapter 2, Section 3. Deductive reasoning is when you know that something's true, or you have a rule that you always use, and then you apply it to a specific situation. So basically, applying a rule to a specific situation. So, if you're driving and you see a red light, you know the rule is you need to stop. So then, you use deductive reasoning to apply your brakes and stop. Something like that. So, there are basically two laws of logic that we're going to use. The first one is really quite simple. It says that if the first part of an if-then statement is true, then the second part, the conclusion, must also be true. So this is really, really, really simple. So if I told you that if two angles have the same measure, then they're congruent. That's the rule. And then I said, oh, hey, by the way, angle A and B are equal, they have the same measure, then you would say angle A and angle B are congruent. Or if I said if I see a funny movie, then I laugh. Okay? If that's the rule, and I said, oh hey, I saw a funny movie last night, then you could say, oh, then you laughed. So all you have to do is read the rule, someone's going to give you the first part, and then you write down the second part. So let's see if I have any other examples of this on other pages. So, Dan bought a pizza. No, I don't have a really good example of another one of those. So basically with a law of detachment, they're going to give you a rule, and they're going to give you the first part, and then you have to simply write the conclusion part. Or so if I said, if I go shopping, then I buy clothes. So if they started with saying, I went to the mall to shop, then what would you say is your answer? Then you would say, I bought clothes. That would be your answer. You see how it's very simple? They give you the rule, they give you the first part, and you simply have to do the second part. That is called the law of detachment. And these are the answers. So if the rule was, if I buy new shoes, then I will impress my friends, and I said, hey, I just bought some new shoes, then you would say, oh, then you must impress your friends. That would be your response for the law of detachment. Okay, now the other rule of logic that we're looking at is called the law of syllogism. This one here. So syllogism is going to give you two statements. So, for example, here is a good one for the law of syllogism. If Julie stays after today, then she will finish her homework. If Julie finishes her homework, then she'll be able to go to the movies this weekend. So, what you do with the law of syllogism is you take and you understand that these two things are connected, because the conclusion of the first statement is actually the hypothesis of the second statement. So they're linked together logically. It's kind of like a chain of events that once you get it started, it has to eventually end up with the final conclusion. So you can see, yeah, let's say Julie stays after school. That means she finishes her homework. If she finishes her homework, then she'll be able to go to the movies this weekend. So what you do is you grab the original statement that sets the whole thing in motion, and then the conclusion of that sequence of events. What ultimately happens is she gets to go to the movies this weekend. Because these two parts match, that has to be true. So your response would be, if Julie stays after school today, then, and then we skip to the end, she will be able to, and then go up here, to go to the movies this weekend. Okay? Oops, sorry, a little off the screen there. There you go. Here's another example that we can illustrate the law of syllogism with. If angle A is congruent to angle B, then the triangle is isosceles. If the triangle is isosceles, then line segment AC is congruent to line segment BC. So we start off with these two angles being the same, and then we know that the triangle is isosceles, but if that's true, then we know that this ultimate conclusion can be made. So, as long as this linking concept is the same, we can start at the beginning. If angle A is congruent to angle B, then it eventually leads us to conclude that segment AC is congruent to segment BC. So, I'll do one more example. I'm going to write it over here on this adjacent page. If Rashid does well in school, then his parents will be proud. If his parents are proud, then they raise his allowance. So, we have two statements, and we have a linking component here. We have the conclusion of the first statement being the same as the hypothesis of the second statement. So, this, once you say the first if, it sets off a sequence of events that must mean that beginning here must logically conclude that that is true. So your answer is, by applying the law of syllogism, if Rashid does well in school, then his parents raise his allowance. That's your final answer for the law of syllogism.